Welcome to Retro Relyks. I'm Skylar, and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be doing Relyks Radio, our new podcast that we're going to be releasing. I'm hoping to do once a month, maybe bi-monthly. And today I have my guest, my best friend, Anthony. We're going to be going over today top 10. We're going to be trying to make our top 10 Xbox 360 memories. So memories associated with it. We're not trying to rank the best games by any means. All we're trying to do is go off a biased list of personal memories and see if we can curate what the Xbox 360 meant to us today. All right, so Anthony, you want to kick things off?
I'll start off with the first one being just sitting down and actually completing games. That's something that's actually rare for me nowadays.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's actually one of the things that got me into this channel was I had just been burnt by a couple of new games, and I'm not saying that the games were bad by any means. I'm saying that it just wasn't my cup of tea. Like, I couldn't get into it. And I found myself, when I actually sit down and play on my Xbox 360, like, I actually complete the game. It keeps my attention.
It's also just, I feel like back then it just felt like a more complete package.
Yeah, there was definitely something about the ability to pop in a disc and just hit play.
And not wait for a 20 gig download on day one.
Yeah. However, I was a stickler about downloading my discs so that it would, like, extend the longevity of my 360 and
speed up like loading times.
Yeah, exactly. So I would wait for that, and that would maybe take, I don't know, hour or two, maybe tops. Sometimes, probably usually less than an hour, depending on the game, unless it was like L.A. Noire where you have 3 discs to install.
It was also kind of, I don't know, I would set goals for myself to try and complete a game in a day. Not healthy, but there were many campaigns that I would go through where I would, like, I'm going to try and complete this in, like, within 8 hours. And, like, that would help me at least complete the game. Maybe not 100% it, but get through the main story in the campaign or whatever content was there.
Yeah, I had a similar deal, but it was usually because I rented the game. Did a lot of video game rentals back in the day, and for instance, Redbox rentals, I think that was only 2 or 3 days. And so anytime one of those got released, I either tried to complete it before I had to return it, or I would know, okay, I'm hooked on this. One of those was Fallout 4. That was actually on Xbox One, but like stuff like that, I would rent, try it, and then usually return it and go buy it if I really liked it. But yeah, no, there was also other rentals too where I just like, I gotta beat this in a weekend.
Mm-hmm. I was really bad about it. Not renting. I would just taking a bunch of stuff to GameStop, get a game that I'd been interested in, and try and complete it within the week return period. And did that a couple times. I eventually got blacklisted.
The old GameStop hack before they started blacklisting people. I did that like once or twice, but mainly because I was like, this is the only decent GameStop in town, and I don't want to not be able to come back here. So I did it once or twice. EB Games is where that really started out. EB Games is really easy to do that with. Yeah. But there was a point in time where if you bought somewhat new games, the trade-in return was good enough that you could, buy 2 or 3, beat them, and then take them back and trade them in within a month or so, and still get enough value to at least buy 2. You might not be able to walk away with another 3, but at least 1 or 2, depending on what you picked up.
Yep.
So, and then let's see. I'm trying to figure if I want to cherry pick from these or just start from the top.
I kind of just randomly picked from my list.
I'm gonna go from the pickup, the one on the top here. If we're gonna be talking about Xbox 360 memories, bringing home the Xbox for the first time, and the games that I had with it at that time. I didn't get to buying. I was probably 2 or 3 years late. I usually am with consoles. Every time I'm 2 or 3 years into it before I buy a new one. And I came home with Pure. I don't know if you remember that one, the four-wheeler racing game.
Yep.
And Skate. Those are my first two games, and I remember bringing them home. And of course, it was in the GameStop box, and we had it. Actually, I think it came with two other games. Lego Indiana Jones and Kung Fu Panda were the two games. And it was actually, I think it was a pro or arcade version. So it came preloaded with like Uno and was it Heavy Weapon? There was another. It was a Small Arms. Do you remember that one? Yeah. It was like it was kind of like Smash Bros. Little characters. That was a really fun game. And like Marble Blast, I think was another one, which was like basically
a lot of time on that. Yep.
Yeah, that one was fun. Basically like a physics puzzle game, essentially. That was a blast.
Super Monkey Ball.
Yeah. And so Pure, Skate, and a slew of other little arcade games, but I played the hell out of Skate and Pure. I think I played Pure the most because you got to customize your four-wheeler down to its chassis and its shocks and all that. I had a blast with that one.
So for me, I was similar. I was, I think, a year or two after launch, well into the Red Ring cycle. But mine came in, and I got, I think, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance and Forza Motorsport 2 bundle, and then Halo 3 on top of that.
I recently had an incursion with the Forza 2 and Marvel Ultimate Alliance bundle. I was trying to find that game on eBay, and I couldn't for the life of me find the version that was just Marvel Ultimate Alliance without Forza 2.
There was just so many bundle copies.
I think there was more of those sold than the actual standalone Marvel game.
Yeah.
Had to have been, because you cannot find a copy by itself. It took weeks before I found one that finally popped up for sale on eBay. So we're up to one. All right, we got one out on each side. What do you got?
So one thing from your last one kind of plays into one of mine, which was demos and Xbox Live arcade games.
Okay.
And just finding hidden gems.
That's actually on my list. I got it listed down as browsing and playing obscure arcade games.
Yeah, hidden gems.
Yeah.
So the one that grabs my, like, the whatever memory is what is it called? Vampire Dishwasher or something like that. I have it on Steam, but it's just this little side scroll hack and slash game. Extremely difficult. Like before Dark Souls and Demon Souls was a thing. Like, think that, but 2D side scroller, and just this gothic, like all monochrome theme. Like the visuals are all like black and white, and the only color is like blood.
I'm trying to think of a obscure arcade. I know I have one on my to play list. I've actually never played it, but Mars the Warlogs or Mars Warlogs. It's kind of like a Mass Effect clone. And they did another game here. The company did another game here recently, but I have that on my list because apparently it's similar to Mass Effect, but a little jankier, which I suppose that makes it more like Mass Effect 1. But I have that one on my list to play here soon. I just remember, I think I did more browsing than I did actual playing of Xbox arcade games. And I just remember the thousands of games that use the Kinect avatars, the Xbox avatars.
Oh, yeah.
Thousands of games. Wasn't one of them called Tieflings or something? No, that's a...
Teflings.
Teflings. Yeah, I was gonna say, wait, no, Tieflings is a Dungeons and Dragons race. Teflings. Yeah.
No, it was a Kingdom for Keflings with a
Keflings. There we go. Yeah. No.
Yeah, I played a good bit of that too.
Yeah, same. And then of course there was like the Minecraft knockoffs with the Xbox avatars.
Yep. Good program for Microsoft though, and to get like indie games off the ground.
And I think that set a trend for them. Like I feel like I personally didn't own a PS3 during that era, so I couldn't tell you whether or not you saw a lot of the same on there. I think maybe you saw more Japanese games on PS3, but I do feel like Xbox kind of, that was the moment where as a company it seemed like they started moving more in the direction of like Steam. And here we are with Game Pass, and Xbox is trying to set themselves up to be the next Steam or Steam competitor instead of trying to compete with Sony or Nintendo. So it's really cool to see how they've evolved since the Xbox arcade games. Mm-hmm. So I believe you are up next for, or is it me? Do I already lose count?
Okay.
Oh no, we checked one off of mine. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm next. Let's see here. So next on my list, I'm just going to go in order here. It makes it a little bit easier. Halo ODST multiplayer disc. I owned that before I owned Halo 3. I'm not going to get into the reasons why. It's a long story. But I owned that first. And not ODST. All I had was the just the ODST multiplayer disc. One of the Blockbusters was closing down and they were having a fire sale. And I went in there and I picked up 2 games. Portal 2 and that's how late in the game this was. Portal 2 and Halo 3 ODST multiplayer. And I think it was like $4. And when I tell you there's a lot of memories wrapped up in that. First of all, like finding one of the coolest gaming communities ever, Halo 3, because by that time the community was well settled and just one of the greatest communities ever. And I didn't even get to play online yet. That comes later. I actually took it home and then had to rig up our family laptop that also had a like USB internet dongle and
bridge the connection to get online.
Yeah. On a Windows 7, which was horrible with recognizing networks. No. Windows Vista.
It on Vista. Yep.
It was Vista.
It was awful.
Trying to merge networks on there was like IT 101. And so that was an experience in itself. So it took me all day. I got the laptop set up. I got the internet connected. And it was a moment of like, huzzah, the internet's connected. I'm in a matchmaking lobby. I am playing it and I am glitching everywhere. I am just doubling back multiple times over. But I connected the internet successfully. I can't remember if I actually ever played it on that network at all. I don't think it was like ever playable. But we eventually got internet, cable internet, and got to play it. But that was so many memories wrapped up in that. I just remember like the resounding feeling of success just from connecting to the laptop, only to find out that it wasn't enough internet. But it was still good. Like it was still like this moment of victory.
So I have something similar with the whole internet thing. We didn't have internet for a while, but I had the Xbox. I still had Xbox Live from like a previous residence. And I would use our family laptop and just connect to one of the neighbors that had unencrypted Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And just get online.
Nice.
Play. I think the thing we played the most back then was probably GTA 4 and a bit of Forza.
I missed the boat on GTA 4 online. I really wanted to play it. I had a YouTuber I watched play it all the time, and it looked like a blast.
It was so much fun.
The vehicle mechanics were so wonky in that, so I can't imagine how crazy the online was for that.
Well, it made it wonky because they made it more realistic for GTA 4. They dialed it way back for GTA 5. Like the soft body model, like crash physics in that game were just on point.
The crash physics were great. That was funny. So let me go ahead and check that one off the list. what's your next one?
I could just dive into GTA 4 shenanigans. Yeah, I spent... So if I wasn't playing Halo 3 or Forza Motorsport 2 with my buddies, we were just on GTA 4, just messing around in the online. Back then in the online, like there weren't any cops when you went online. So you could pretty much do whatever you wanted in the private sessions.
That's crazy. No
Yeah.
cops on that. Like, I can't imagine
I don't even think
it.
it was just the private sessions. I think it was just all online, but I
Oh,
could
just
be
the private
remembering
sessions.
wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say because like even in the private servers for GTA 5, there's still cops. Like personally,
Yep.
I think that's part of the experience is like getting 5 stars
Mhm.
and seeing how long everyone could last without dying. But no, I don't. Yeah, I didn't realize there wasn't any cops in GTA 4. That's crazy.
Yeah, just in the online. So yeah, like I think in single player, like anytime you would go into the airport, unless it was mission specific, you'd get 4 stars immediately. The nice thing with the online was that didn't happen. So we could go in there and just mess around with vehicles, jumping off the signs in the airport. Play jousting, see whose car could get messed up the most, the
Nice,
quickest.
nice.
Do stunt jumps and yeah, and then like obviously the swing set glitch, which worked better online because you didn't get ejected from the vehicle.
Huh? I'll have to pull that up and post a swing set. I've never seen that one.
Oh, the swing set glitch?
I probably
Really?
watched it at some point in time without realizing what it was.
Yeah, you would kind of just jam a vehicle of that works better on the cars, but you could do it on the bikes. But you would just ram your vehicle into the swing set on the like this is like the middle of the map, bottom middle, and the physics would freak out and launch you just hundreds of miles in the air.
Okay, I'm definitely have to pull that up and post.
This is so fun.
I'm gonna go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and cherry pick one. So working on my console, like that is probably one of my favorite memories. Was when I had a lot of free time as a teenager, and I would take my console completely apart, like down to the disk drive. I would even take the disk drive apart. All I would do was just like take photos of my phone of how it was, take a picture of it taken apart, put everything where it's supposed to go, and then little separate piles for screws and stuff. And then I would clean everything and put it all back together. I remember the first time it ever had issues, I did take it to a shop, and like it was in Dallas, so it was like an hour-long drive to go drop off my 360, leave it for a week, drive back the next weekend and pick it up. But it started happening so frequently where that wasn't an option, so I would just learn to do it myself. I'd take it apart, clean it. It'd work for 6 to 8 months, and I'd do it again.
Yep.
It finally is completely kaput. I mean, it will work as far as everything like digital games, but the disk drive is just completely kaput. So, but I mean, I've thought about taking it apart and cleaning it and seeing if that would work, but it got to the point where even when I was doing that, it might last a month. It might, and then I remember the last time I did it, I think it only lasts maybe a couple weeks before it did it again. I was like, okay, I'm not taking this apart again.
Yeah.
But I got to the point where I could probably still do it to this day. One of the white like OG Xbox 360s, I could probably still take it apart to this day and put it back together like a freaking Lego puzzle.
So I did something similar with the OG Xbox, but that was so much easier to do than the 360.
Yeah, the original Xbox.
Yeah. So
Really?
the original Xbox was like 6 screws on the bottom. Just lift the top off, and then it's just a couple screws to get the hard drive out, and then the disk drive out, and then you have access to everything.
Huh.
It was very much designed like a computer back in the day.
I actually have never owned the original one. I was a PS2 guy for that era. I flip-flop a lot.
I was fortunate enough to have both. Even before I got Xbox Live, though, it was just all PS2. Like, I didn't really have much use for the Xbox until I got Xbox Live.
Yeah, and that was same here. When I had my PS2, we didn't have internet, so and like that was such a new concept that like online gaming, multiplayer gaming wasn't even on my radar until like, I mean, I knew of like World of Warcraft and RuneScape and stuff like that, and Quake, but I didn't. Halo multiplayer online was not on my radar. The only thing, like even when Halo 1 came out, Halo 2, my brain was like, oh, so this is something that you can do a LAN party with, or that you can do a 4-player split screen if you got a big enough TV. But it wasn't until the 360 era where I was like, oh, maybe this is actually a thing, and people seem to really enjoy it. So yeah, I was always a PS2 guy for the single player experiences.
So I'm up next now?
Yes, I was gonna say you're up next.
I'm gonna do a random one because it's kind of relevant to what we're doing now.
Okay.
So before Discord was a thing, this Xbox 360 had group chat at some point. And we used that so much, just me and my friend group, just either sitting in the group chat, just either chatting, or all of us playing different games. And it's just weird to think about. Like, now we have Discord. Like, I think Skype was a thing back then, but it was just awful. Yep. Skype was always awful. AIM and MSN Messenger had kind of started dying off. So the most convenient thing was just using the 360 to chat with people.
Yeah. I, too, was a part of it. We actually had a social group on there, a little friend group of probably 8 or 10 people. And every once in a while, we would all get together and play Halo 3. We exclusively all met through Halo 3, but occasionally everyone would be playing their own game and we'd all just be hanging out in there. No, that was like Wild West of internet community. And I feel like a lot of the bad apples, at least in my experience, I'm sure there's other people that can say otherwise and prove me wrong, but it just felt like a better collective experience back then. Like, and that's probably a big reason why I'm not really into like online gaming these days. Because back then people were it felt like everyone that was online was exclusively online to make friends, or at least the people that would reach out and try to make friends in a game. I'm sure there was like groups of people where everyone was like username parenthesis 1, 2, 3, and 4. Like there's 4 people playing it, which I did that too. But there were, you had your clans and stuff like that. And that's another thing that I wish would come back. Man, I didn't even put that on my list. I never got to be a part of one, but I always wanted to be in one of those.
So I thought about putting it on there, but it felt more like an OG Xbox thing. I know it was still around on the 360, but it was only in like a couple of games. It felt way more prevalent on the original Xbox with Halo. There were a few other multiplayer games, but I think the OG Xbox really kicked off the whole clan thing, and then it kind of petered off midway through the 360 era.
Yeah, I would say mid to about halfway. I guess I was early enough into it that it was still pretty prevalent, and I always like got completely destroyed by anyone that had that prefix to their username. But I always wanted to be in one, but my ADHD had me flip-flopping around between so many different things. I'd be on Xbox, or sometimes I'd spend a month just playing and learning guitar. Sometimes the next time I'm fixated on booting up my PS2 again. I never was dedicated enough just to the Xbox 360 online to find one or be in one, but
and you also kind of had to be committed to that one game.
Yeah, exactly.
I was kind of committed to Halo 3 constantly, but there was other stuff I wanted to play. So my friends and I just made our own clan.
Yeah, and I was and still am. I've always been more into single player experiences than online. Online was something I did just usually on the weekends here and there. During the week, I would rather binge through an RPG or something like Mass Effect or an Obsidian RPG or something. But yeah, that's actually, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about that. That is actually something that I want to do with a channel at some point. This is ideas, spitballing that I've had. Yeah. But to have a gaming clan for Retro Relyks, I think that'd be awesome. Like to get on and play Master Chief Collection or something of the sort like that.
Or just a night of messing around in like a Forza. Or...
Yeah, something. And the thing is, too, is I would want it to at least be an Xbox One game. Yeah, at least because...
Yeah. That's a popular enough console that a bunch of people have it, and even if they don't, I think a bunch of those titles work on PC now.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, and I would want to exclusively do retro games, and potentially if there's any retro games where there was you can host a server, even if it was on PC. I think it'd be cool if, have nights where if the groups are big enough, if this channel's following gets big enough to have something like that, to do an event where everyone gets invited to play a game, like an old game online that you don't typically have enough people to play for online.
Yeah, that could be really cool.
Yeah, that future goals for this channel, that'd be really cool.
Aspirations.
Yes. Let's see. So I guess I'm up next.
Yes, sir.
Well, you know what? You already mentioned Forza, so I'll go ahead and bring that one up. Let's go ahead and check it off there. This one is kind of a two-part. So Forza Horizon, not for its online, but I remember it being, for me, one of the best racing games I'd ever played up to that point.
Absolutely.
I had played Forza 4, and I really enjoyed it. And then when Horizon came around, I downloaded, there was a demo where you had a black Mitsubishi Lancer, and you had a small area that was both street and dirt, and I think there was 2 races you could do. I played that small demo, which was probably about a 10-minute experience, if not maybe 15, and I think I spent literal hours just driving in circles and messing around on the little rally track that was built into the center of that small section of map that they let you play around in. That game had such a big impact on me that my first car that I purchased from a dealership was a black Mitsubishi Lancer. It wasn't an Evo. I would have loved turbocharged and all-wheel drive. However, it was still a black Lancer just like the one in the game. And that was that was one of the best racing game experiences. And what's funny is they've made bigger and better Horizons since then. But
it just doesn't feel the same.
It's something about that first one was lightning in a bottle. I am not huge on the open world aspect.
It's strayed so far from the festival street racing, because it's all. That's my biggest issue with the last 2 is it's had such a big focus on going off road and. That's not what I want.
Yeah, no, and I kind of liked the more on the rails experience. I feel like that it having limited off road, just like these back trails that you could go on to, and they still had
the DLC for the first Horizon, where it was a completely different map for the rally stuff.
Mm-hmm. And
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and I feel like it forcing you to stay on the roads made it feel more realistic.
Yeah.
I felt like
just cut the track to
right
get in front of everyone.
And they had certain areas that were kind of open exploration, because they had the farms where you had to go find the barn. They still had the barn finds in there, and the barn finds in there were better in my opinion, just the way it was set up, the delivery of it. And I also feel like you said, the festival theme. I feel like the center attention of that game, where it made you feel like someone who went on a road trip and their little, I can't say the word I want to say, but I'm going to say their crap box, driving it, just like you drove to Colorado from somewhere to go participate in this event with your little Volkswagen. And I don't know, it just had a more grounded experience to it, and to me is one of the best arcade racing games ever made. I had a blast with that on 360.
Yeah, I had a ton of fun with that one. I have the entire Forza franchise on my list because from Forza Motorsport 2 up to, what did they end off on, 4 on the 360?
On the 360? I
yeah,
think
they went
2.
2, 3, 4, and then they had the first and second Horizon on there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was only Horizon 2. We have a specific memory, the two of us, going to get that from a midnight release.
And being horribly disappointed with the 360 version because it was a completely different game.
I just remember walking to GameStop and then be like, oh, there was another game being released that night that was way bigger. And we had no clue that it was coming out. And we walked in, we're like, we're here for the midnight release. They're like, oh, we dropped that one at 9. Here you go. I can't remember what other game it was. I think, was it Mortal Kombat or something?
It might have been something like that. I'd have to look at what came out around that time.
I think it was like Mortal Kombat or something like that. So I remember them having a tournament and stuff there. And oh, no, we're just here for Horizon 2 on 360.
Yeah, we're the weird racing guys, sorry.
Yeah, I do remember it being booting that game up. I think we went back to my place, installed it, booted it up, and we're like, oh, this looks nothing like the advertisements. It was a completely tuned down, and there was so much content.
Yeah, part of the map was just not available in the 360 version.
Yeah, there were certain areas that you couldn't drive through any kind of fences or anything like that. And there was a complete lack of vegetation. It was just grassy fields. There was very, very little, and there's so much content was cut from that game.
Yeah, that was the first of many fumbles of Playground Games. From that point on, it was kind of just start tallying up how many fumbles they'll have in each release. And 3 released okay. That one was the good one where they kind of opened it up way more, but it wasn't just bombarding you with races and online content.
3
it still kind of felt grounded.
Yeah, no, I will say 3 was the last one that I really enjoyed. That was a really good one. But yeah, I also had that was in conjunction with Horizon 4, or not Horizon 4, I'm sorry, just Motorsport 4. And I think that was the first game you and I played online on the Xbox 360.
It was either that, or I think the first Forza we played was on the 1, and that was Forza 5.
No, this was old 7-Eleven days. We were trying to figure out what games that we both had that we could play online after our shift. And I think the only one that we both had was Motorsport 4. And I
think that led into Destiny.
Yes, that did lead into Destiny.
Yep.
Destiny was the next, because I ended up picking that up and playing that. Yeah, we played the heck out of Destiny. But no, Motorsport 4, and we would just get on the Nürburgring and drive in circles on the Nürburgring for hours. And just chit chat, just cruising.
That's kind of what I did throughout most of the Motorsport games. So 2, we had the little friend group that I had. We would just get on there and do random self-made challenges, like who can do the most laps on the Nürburgring.
Mm-hmm.
Or we would go to the Nürburgring map, and back then it wasn't as detailed, so it was a little bit more flat on the long straight. So we would just all get in our fastest cars and see, the physics wouldn't allow the cars to flip over back then.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got air and were off axis or whatever, you would just keep going up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So there were a few times where we hit the top of the map.
Wow. All right. Now that is something I'd like to see if we can get a recording of. So I think that wraps up Forza. I only have 3 talking points left. So how many do you have?
I have 5.
So why don't you go ahead and do 3 in a row, and then we'll come back to me.
All right. So the next one I'll do is I don't know. I think it's seen as kind of a cult classic game nowadays. Back in the day, though, it was not. It was kind of seen as an atrocity to the franchise. But the Shadowrun game on 360, I had so much fun in that game. So it was kind of a hero shooter before hero shooters really took off.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the whole arena style combat and different classes. I guess it was more of an arena shooter, but yeah. So the just jankiness of that game led to so many just hysterical nights. You'd have enemies hit you so hard that you'd get stuck in walls. There were some pretty cheesy mechanics too. I think one of the classes had like these spikes that they would throw out, and it would slow you and damage you over time. And we were just getting trounced by the other team. And I think this was like a pyramid map. So we all held up inside the pyramid and blocked all of the entryways with this stuff. And we just kind of rode out the rest of the match. It's just them trying to get in and us just popping them off.
Nice.
Still didn't win, but it was so much fun.
That honestly, that's sometimes with multiplayer, it's not even the game that makes it. It's the people involved. It's whatever competition that transpired.
Yeah, and this was just completely random. So I couldn't get any of my other friends to play this game because I mean, it wasn't an actual Shadowrun game. It had some homages to the property, but it was nothing like what Shadowrun, the newer games are now.
Yeah. I have a deep connection to the Shadowrun franchise. My first experience with knowing that Shadowrun existed was through an online friend, and we ran a chat room based role playing game of Shadowrun because Shadowrun had a tabletop game, and we basically read through the whole tabletop manual and cherry picked rules and made up our own rules to fit chat room style role playing. And we built probably one of the most complicated forums with like subsections. Like we had complete inventory stores of like, we took the inventory from the game manual and remade it in this forum so that you could browse and purchase things from inventory, anything from like accessories to weapons and everything. Probably the most in-depth roleplay, like web-based roleplay that we had done at that time, because we had done a couple of them, and that was like our that was our masterpiece. And that led me, that's how I experienced Shadowrun first, because he introduced me to it. And then I went on from there and I downloaded a Sega emulator and played Shadowrun Sega version, which is my preferred version simply because of its soundtrack. I liked its soundtrack better than I did the SNES version.
Sega had some just awesome soundtracks back in the day.
Yeah. And that was my first experience. And by the time that I learned that there was a Shadowrun game on the Xbox 360, I had no idea. And then by that time the servers were already shut down, and I heard it was horrible. So I know little to nothing about the Shadowrun game other than knowing that game stores openly sold it on their shelves, knowing that it was broken and online only. I almost bought it. Had I not known about it, I probably would have, because I like picked it up and then I Googled it and I'm like, oh, this is online only. Why are they selling this? Yeah, that was my experience with Shadowrun. I would have loved to have had some multiplayer experiences with that, just to say that I did, just to know what it was like. So I'll probably have to look that up, see what it was like.
Yeah, I got no warning when I was going to buy it. I tried the demo because they had a demo on Xbox 360, and I had fun with it. And I think I picked up the game for like $10 at GameStop. So I mean, I got my money's worth out of it.
Nice.
Next game I could probably move on to is Test Drive Unlimited, the first one. That is up there with like playing online with the Forza games for me. Just that game had such an atmosphere and vibe to it. It wasn't perfect, but like just exploring that map, because that one was similar to what Horizon did, the first one, kind of linear, no off-road or anything. You would drive around, you'd find dealerships to buy cars, different themed races around the entire map. Heck, one of the achievements for the game was just driving on every road on the Hawaiian island. And it was just a ton of fun. We had quite a few people on my friends list that would just get on there and drag race down one of the strips.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to like best our time or whatever, and we're manually counting our time because it wasn't like an official race or anything. But just good times, good vibes.
Yeah, that how early was that to Horizon? They definitely had the idea first. How I'd have to look that up.
So I think Test Drive Unlimited was 2006 or 2007.
Okay, so it was
the
quite a
first Horizon. Yeah, the
quite
first
a few
Horizon
years
was,
before.
what, 2010 or 11.
I picked that game up during the dark ages of having a 360 without internet, and I picked that up and played it because like, ooh, the Test Drive series, because I played Test Drive on PC and I played it on PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 1 as well. Like that was my first experience with racing games other than my dad's copy of NASCAR. So yeah, that I picked that game up not knowing that it was predominantly online only, but you could still play it offline just with significantly less features. I can't even remember whether or not I could enter an actual race. Like I think I just drove around.
You should have been able, because I think you can do all of the races on the island offline.
Okay, maybe I did a couple of races then. But I found out like all the things that I had got the game for, like looking at the back of it, were not accessible offline. Like having a player home and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think you could just get the first home and then all the other ones were locked behind online or something.
Yeah.
It was a ton of fun. Just, trolling people and just kind of sandbagging people on the strip.
Nice.
And I guess to round this out, this would be like a couple franchises. So Guitar Hero and Rock Band.
Nice.
I spent so much time, not even online, playing with those. Just myself, like just enjoying, just playing through the soundtracks in those games.
I wanted to bring up Guitar Hero and Rock Band, but I exclusively played all of those on PlayStation 2. Guitar Hero 1 through 3 and the I had all the stuff to play it on my PS2, so I didn't go out and buy a guitar for the 360. So if I ever wanted to play Rock Band or a new Guitar Hero game, I just bust out the PlayStation 2. I have a very deep connection to that game as well, because if it were not for Guitar Hero, I would have never picked up a real guitar and had the belief that I had the capability of learning it.
I never got that far. Mine was mostly just either hanging in a call or like a group chat or whatever and just playing. I did do the really just low quality like screen record for YouTube of like run-throughs of songs and stuff. And I built a little community around that.
Nice.
I then kind of fell off, but like no internet, so
right.
Couldn't really do a consistent uploading schedule or anything for that.
Yeah, it was also just a really fun party game.
Oh yeah.
And I remember I didn't really I never had the drum kit for Rock Band. I would always go to Best Buy or like Walmart or whatever, whoever had the kit set up on display to try out. And I was always up just blasting System of a Down on drums.
Yeah, I never got the drums either. I got Rock Band after I had gotten into Guitar Hero. So I had just picked up the game because the guitars were cross-compatible.
Yeah, I don't think I preferred the Guitar Hero guitar over Rock Band's. Rock Band's pick switch always had issues.
Yeah, The issue I had with my guitar, I had the wireless Les Paul, so the connections in the neck were really shoddy. So you'd have to jam the neck back into the guitar body to get
Nice.
it to recognize. Yeah, it was kind of awful. But I played a ton with it.
I
I
still
wish I kept that guitar.
I still stand by the original wired Guitar Hero guitars
Hmm.
being more accurate because you first of all you get an analog wired connection, so it's like the most limited amount of latency you could have, and for that game playing on some of those songs on Expert, you absolutely needed that.
Especially if you were trying to play Guitar Hero on like a newer, like an at the time newer LCD that had a ton of input lag. Oh my god.
Thankfully, I had a good old fashioned tube TV up until about like 2014.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the superior way to play it.
Also, those strats for I think they came out with Guitar Hero 2, the white ones. Those were just rock solid.
Stratocaster. I think I know what one you're talking about. Are you talking about the white Explorer? It was the Gibson Explorer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the white Gibson Explorer. I love those. Those I never had one, but I did play on one a couple of times, and those were I think they had kind of nailed the wireless version with that one.
So the one I had wasn't wireless. It was wired.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, they did have wired ones for the 362.
Yeah. Well, that wraps up my 3. If you wanna jump off that.
Was that already 3? All right.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and my next two are gonna be Rockstar games related.
Okay.
Bully Scholarship Edition on the Xbox 360. The first time I ever played that game was on PlayStation 2, but I rented it and it was a really long game. And I don't think I ever even got outside of the school into the larger map on the PlayStation 2 version. Years later, I picked it up on Xbox 360, knowing that the Scholarship Edition had a couple of additional things to it. Like you had, I think the go kart. I want to say was exclusive to that one. I might be wrong there. But I do know that they added stuff like music class, which also added a whole nother mission where there was music involved for like the Christmas concert. But that game, while I think there's some elements of it that haven't aged well, but I think that's any Rockstar game that makes snide jokes. Not they land well for their time, but don't always age well. But it was, I'll put it this way. I played that game so much, I will sum it up, and I recently threw away my original copy. I'd held on to it for a long time, but I recently threw it away because the disc rot in the center, like the center of the disc was so worn out from just years of playing it. And that game was just so much fun. I mean, because and then there on the Scholarship Edition as well, there was a multiplayer mode where you could play every mini game that was built into the game. So all of the arcades, all of the mini games that you could play at the little like pier that they had like a little Coney Island in the game. So all of those most of those mini games you could play on the multiplayer mode. And me and my friend we'd sit there, couch go up, just playing against each other, having tournaments of all the different mini games that were in that game. But yeah, I spent hours on that. It's just so many memories, and that map I know like the back of my hand, and like probably influenced on what I think I want a town to look like. Probably a reason why I want to move to the Northeast or the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
That game was a vibe, and its soundtrack was impeccable. I think the guy who did the soundtrack for Bully also did the soundtrack for Red Dead Redemption. That's one of the things I also loved about it is there was no like outside music. Every bit of music in that game was composed for it. Even like the ambient, what would be a radio song, was composed for it, which just made it, I don't know, just immersive. It was just its own thing. It had a vibe.
Yeah, it brought you into the world
For sure.
instead of like having licensed music like in the GTA games.
Yeah, for sure. It was. I think that was. I hope one day they make a sequel to it. I don't think that it. I think it's been so long that anything that they try to make a sequel to will lose it. It'll miss the mark because something about the game being, I want to say it was set either in the late 80s or early 90s. And something about it being set during that time period just makes the game kind of feel like a time capsule of experiencing what being a teenager in the 90s looked like and felt like.
I unfortunately wouldn't hold my breath on a sequel. I'm still waiting on a sequel to a Midnight Club.
Yeah. No, as long as they're taking on GTA 6, I doubt we'll ever get a sequel to any of the other satellite franchises that they have.
Which is unfortunate, because Midnight Club was amazing. Like, they had some amazing IP, and it's just kind of sitting there now.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites up there with like Need for Speed. I think I primarily played Midnight Club on PS2. I may have played one of the 360 versions of it at some point in time, but usually with racing games, before I discovered Forza Motorsport and Horizon, before those came out, I would like hop back and forth between Need for Speed or Midnight Club if I was in the mood for it.
That was just a great era. Like the Midnight Club 2, 3, that'd be Underground, Most Wanted, Carbon. That was just a good era of racing, like arcade racers.
Yeah, they were certainly. I don't even know if I could put my finger on what it was that made them better, other than it just being. I don't know. It like didn't. I think there was a time before open worlds were so big that once they got to a certain size, they would fill it with fetch quests to kind of like force you to explore everything. And I think that's still prevalent in games these days.
The Ubisoft effect.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And or to our BioWare fans out there, the hinterlands problem. But yeah, I think that's probably why I don't know, just had a different vibe to them. It was smaller, and it was just, hey, go race here, go race there. I do remember, I think it was Underground 2, Need for Speed Underground 2. You had the camera mode.
Yeah, for the magazine covers.
Yes, that was so dope.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time just messing with customization in that. Kind of off topic now, though.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, that was PS.
It was good. But I'll go ahead and check that off. What do you got next on the list?
All right, I got 2 left. I have one I know I'm saving for last. So let's talk about some accessories for the 360. There were so many, like, we have bad accessories for consoles now. You know, it's just like the normal stands or whatever. They have a fan in them that do absolutely nothing for the console except overheat it.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day, man, you'd have like the little stands for the 360. Mine had like this really janky little wire light in it, and the dinkiest little 40mm fan in the bottom that you set your console on, and it just rattled horribly. I miss that era.
The only accessories I had 2 accessories for my 360, and that was just I had the little keypad, which we all know that if you had one of those, you were capable of some monster paragraphs, disses, and explanations of why that wasn't such a GG.
Little known fact, you could just plug in any keyboard, any USB keyboard into the Xbox and be even faster.
Yeah, that's why I had to pause to think about it, because I was like, man, did I have the webcam? I was like, no, I didn't. You could plug in whatever webcam you had and set it up on there. The 360 is pretty versatile.
So I had the official camera. I think I think they had a list of supported cameras. It wasn't just any.
Mm-hmm.
That list quickly dwindled though with like Xbox Live updates until it was just the Vision Cam.
Mm-hmm. And then eventually the glorious Kinect Overlord.
I think it was. I don't know why they called it the Kinect. It should have been Project Natal.
You know,
Natal was such a better name.
There was in preparation for this podcast, I had looked up Xbox Iceberg. I don't know if you've seen the iceberg memes. Yep. And one of them that I read, and I had no idea, at the bottom of the iceberg, and I would love to do an episode where we just talk about like gaming icebergs, but the bottom of it was the Kinect was made by the Israeli military. And I vaguely remember that rumor going around on like forum, like IGN forum boards back in the day.
That is wild. But yeah, there were just, oh my god, do you remember skins?
Mm-hmm.
Like before D-brand was a thing. Like the skins, I had just the most awful flame skin on mine. Fitting because the GPU fried.
Yeah.
But like there were this thick, like really thick, like almost acrylic flexi, and it just left horrible residue all over the console.
I remember those, and I don't ever remember seeing one that I was like, I want to put that on my Xbox. And I also had already, by the time that I got a 360, had already heard so many horror stories about the red rings that I was like, I'm not putting a single thing on here that can make this run hotter than it already will.
Oh, also faceplates. That's something I want to come back, like desperately, because like just customizing, just buying something that clips on like it's OEM to just change up the look
instead of a skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, the faceplates are cool.
They didn't make very many of those.
No,
I think Metal Jesus Rocks has like a bunch of them, but so many of them just never sold, so they went straight to the trash. So like you can't even have a full collection of them.
I remember seeing like the same 4 or 5 in rotation at GameStop. I don't remember and that's why I was like, none of these really speak to me. I've always been, I like my consoles bare bones. Just I'm always like it the way it came out of the factory. Looks sleek.
Yeah.
I never had one that struck me as like, oh, I gotta have that on my faceplate.
I think the only one that I would have gotten was like the Halo themed ones, but I think those were exclusive to like the limited editions or whatever.
Yeah, that is still a console I want to this day. The Master Chief Green and Orange.
I think the one I saw for sale the most was just that kind of light blue with the white tribal around the power button. I saw that one everywhere.
Yep.
And then there was the one with the skulls, I think.
Yep. Those I remember. Yeah. Yeah, that I think that was like the 2 I saw constantly at GameStop before they finally just disappeared one day.
Yeah, they weren't on the market very long. It was a couple of years.
I think
nobody wanted to make them.
No, and you could catch them, like sometimes you would see them sold at your like local game stores, like something like Game Exchange or something like that. Let's see. So you're down to 2 and I'm down to 2, or you got 1 left?
I'm down to 1.
Down to 1. Okay, so I have 2 more. All right, I'm going to save best for last on this one. So my next one is going to be Red Dead Redemption Online. So I missed the boat on GTA 4 Online, but I did not miss the boat for Red Dead Redemption. I don't know. Did you play that one at all?
No, I still haven't played Red Dead. I know it's on Steam now. It's just finding time to sit down and I haven't
one of those backlogs.
Yeah.
Red Dead Redemption Online was fantastic. And I'd say the 2 biggest reasons why are, 1, the multiplayer match, like the death matches, there was so many different types. Like one of them, I think my favorite was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was basically sort of like Capture the Flag, where a treasure chest, a lightning bolt would come down. The whole sky would get dark. There'd be a lightning bolt, and you knew that that's where the treasure chest was, and everyone just flocks to it. So there was either a free-for-all version of that or a like team versus team. And it was, and so it'd be like these pretty large, like, desert type maps, and I don't know, that was a blast. I just remember countless hours playing those matches back and forth. And then the death matches were awesome because you would start off, each team would start off lined up for a quick draw. So you'd have like 6 on 6, and the game starts on like the town street, and it's like 1, 2, 3, and then everyone does quit the Deadeye, Everyone does Deadeye, tries to get their shots off. Occasionally you get popped off right there, or you get lucky and pop off a couple of people and take off running to wherever your spot's going to be. But and then the second half to that, I believe it's still in Red Dead 2 Online. But the hunting on there was so cool. So you'd have to get first you have to get your hunting map, and that would unlock all the locations. I can't remember if it was DLC or not, or if you had to buy it. I'm pretty sure you had to buy it. But it was like an expansion where you got a map and a list of where all these mythic creatures are. So like bears, or my particular memory revolves around the mountain lions. And a friend of mine and I were hunting down these mountain lions, and you'd have to kill like 4 or 5 of them or more before like the main one showed up and spawned. But I just remember them completely wrecking us. Like these things would actually hunt you. They wouldn't just like come up on you, and like they didn't just like there was not like really aggro to it. They would legit stalk you. And I remember us ending up in some cabin, and we like get inside there, and these things are stalking around the cabin. We're like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And I turn around in the game, and I just see a mountain lion come through the freaking window and kill my friend, which, insert bloody screaming on his end of the mic. But like moments like that, Red Dead Online was a true like shining star for, no pun intended, but a true shining example of when Rockstar got online right. That one was so much fun.
Yeah, I think there was probably... So for GTA 4, it was really bare bones. It was just like the normal overworld. There wasn't really any missions or anything. It was just kind of a sandbox to just have chaos in.
Right.
Which was fun in itself. But yeah, if you didn't have an imagination, then like you weren't doing much in GTA 4. So they definitely tried harder for Red Dead Online then.
Yeah, and that's what I remember. The only clips I ever remember seeing from GTA 4 was just people doing random stuff in the online. I have one more. What did you save the best for last on your end?
Oh yeah.
What you got?
Halo 3 in general.
Okay. All right.
So like everything from just playing through that campaign the first time, and then playing through it again with friends. And then just trying legendary runs. So many attempts. And then multiplayer is just its own thing. Like, either the matchmaking, doing custom games, finding custom games on people's, I don't remember what it's called now. Your little share board or whatever for your profile, where you could share game types, clips. I had so much cool stuff on there.
What was that called? Waypoint?
So that was the website back in the day. Or it was a website back in the day. It was just like your shared like board.
The Forge?
So the Forge was what you made maps and stuff with. That's also like just top notch. I don't even think they have that in Infinite yet, but I could be wrong there.
I think they do.
It just took a while.
Yeah.
I don't play Infinite anymore, so.
Yeah, that one I binged through campaign and was done with it.
Yep, same. And yeah, that's another topic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like we can skim past that one.
Just finding ways to break the game. Like going on YouTube and just looking for ways to get outside of maps, using Forge to get outside of maps that you're not supposed to. There was a trick with one of the turrets. You would have a player get on the turret, and in Forge mode, you would pick them up and move them around the environment. If you put them against a wall and they got off the turret, they could get out of the map.
I have a specific memory with Forge. It was one of the buddies from that crew I'd previously mentioned earlier. So I woke up one morning. We had stayed up really late playing Halo 3 matchmaking. And I wake up the next morning, and my friend and my little sister, who is probably not old enough to be playing Halo Online, is up already playing on there. And my friend had invited me to play Halo while they were messing around on it, and they accepted the invite, hooked up the microphone and everything. And then he knew that I would be upset if they messed with my kill death ratio by playing on my account. So, because I was that into it at the time. And I wake up and I go into the living room and they're playing Forge. They're just building on and yeah. No, I was like, what are y'all doing? Like, who are you doing that with? And he's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? I was just playing Forge with them until you're ready to do more matchmaking. I'm like, okay, let me eat something, hydrate, and get back online. But yeah, hey, you did save the best for last there. I too also saved a Halo game for last. So the one that I saved, because Halo 3, I feel like Halo 1 and 2, and that's OG Xbox, originally left a bigger impression on me than Halo 3. I think that's because I beat Halo 1 and 2 at a younger age, and I also beat them with friends. It was a long time before I beat Halo 3 with somebody. So, but the game, this one, is the first Halo game that I ever pre-ordered and picked up at a midnight release. And so that was the first game I ever got to experience that Halo midnight release hype with, and like beat it that weekend. And that's Halo Reach. Halo Reach, midnight release, pre-ordered, midnight release, got it home. Me and my buddy, we, split screen co-op, binged through the storyline. That's when I realized this game is not like the other Halo games. It was, but its story was so much darker. The amount of sacrifices and heartbreaks during that main storyline.
It was like a Tarantino film.
Yeah. That was, or like Saving Private Ryan or something like that. Yeah. It was just, it was so gritty, and its story beats were just so snappy. Like, Call of Duty has some great campaign modes, and I'm not trying to say that Call of Duty has campaign modes better than Halo, but the Halo trilogy was more of a space opera. Yeah. While Halo Reach was a gritty, there is no winning. No matter how good you are at this game, you lose in the end.
I think the closest thing you could compare it to in modern is probably like Star Wars Rogue One.
Yeah. Yes. I think that's a great example of we're doing a prequel and none of these characters can survive. Yep. And I just remember the two moments three, now that I think of it. One, when George sacrifices himself and just drops you and is
from the ship. Yep.
And the cutscenes between moments like that, because something that awful would happen. You'd be like, oh my God, he's dead now. Holy crap. And you're like just doing this, F in the chats. And they would have these moments afterwards that were the more typical serene spaciness, where they would let those moments breathe. And as a teenager, young teenagers sitting there playing that, you're just like, what is happening? I'm getting PTSD right now. But there was that moment, of course, the moment where Kat gets her just a headshot out of nowhere.
Yep. That
Jackal just completely unexpected. You're like, okay, we're on the move now. We're gonna get out of here, and just boom, Jackal just snipes her, and it's like, what? And then
showing you their true colors from Legendary mode.
Yeah, and then the ending where it just says objective survive. Like, I just remember like holding on for dear life. I remember my friend died. He's like, it's up to you, bro. And so friend dies. I'm there still alive by myself trying to survive the screen. Of course, the helmet's all getting cracked. And eventually and inevitably you run out of ammo. You can't pick any, you're trying to pick up more guns. You don't have a shield. And inevitably you died, and then the credits roll. And I just remember none of us said anything. Like, my sister's in the room watching us. It's me and my best friend, and we're just staring at the screen, watching the credits roll like, So, those. What'd you think? It's pretty good, right? Yeah, it's good. That's good. I'm feeling things right now, but it was good. Like just dumbfounded by that game. So yeah, I saved that one for last because it was also. I don't think that I played multiplayer on that, but we played the hell out of Firefight.
Oh yeah,
Firefight. I played that hours on end. I loved Firefight on that game.
So my Reach experience, I was late to the campaign. It's funny because I was in the beta for the multiplayer. Another funny, I got 2 invites from Bungie for the multiplayer, which was weird. But yeah, I did the beta for the multiplayer, and then I kind of fell off the Xbox at that point. And then I didn't pick up Reach until I was in college, which would have been like 2012, 2013. So I was late to all that. I got through the campaign. I never really did the Firefight stuff until probably Master Chief Collection.
Yeah, the Firefight was just cool because you didn't need online to play it. The amount of customization that you could do for your Spartan was really cool, and how it was all none of it was pay to win, like pay to get it. You had to unlock it. And yeah, so you get to customize your Spartan, and then it would show up. You didn't get a red or blue color assigned to you, what to wash it out whenever you played Firefight. So just remember me and my friends like customizing our Spartans and then just playing Firefight round after round after round.
Yep, that was me and my friends in Halo 3, because you had similar customization. Like there was no buying armor or anything like that. You unlocked it through getting achievements or completing the campaign on Legendary or playing in matches with Bungie, with Bungie employees.
Yeah,
well, it's just good times.
So that's it. I feel like I only had the what was that? That was 8 on my end. I didn't get a full 10 out of that. I feel like we could totally do a part 2 of this. Honestly, there's just the Xbox 360. I feel like that generation, if I'm not mistaken, was the longest generation in between a new console.
Yeah, I think it was.
So
yeah, I don't count the PS2 because that was on sale in like Portugal or something like that until like 2014. The PS2 had a ridiculous life cycle too.
But yeah, if I was gonna rank these, I think if I was gonna do like a top 5 out of mine, I would probably say bringing the console home in no specific order. Bringing the console home for the first time, working on my console, and like getting familiar with like the tech side of things and tearing it apart and putting it back together. Halo, and then just Halo in general. Halo 3, ODST, Halo Reach. Just I'd say that would be my top 3, and then an honorable mention would be the Forza Motorsports franchise.
Yeah, mine. I think for a top 5 for me, I mean it's gonna be all games like Halo, the Forza franchise, messing around in GTA. Well, I'm torn. Guitar Hero and Rock Band I spent a bunch of time in, so that'd be up there. And then probably completing games. Yeah.
That would be an honorable mention on my list as well. All right, well, to you guys, if y'all want to join the discussion down below in the comments, let us know what your favorite Xbox 360 memories are. Until then, why don't you go relax and replay one of your favorite Retro Relyks.